5 a.m., in the Texas Hill Country. The morning air carries the quiet promise of another honest day of work, until John steps out of his battered Ford pickup and feels his stomach drop into his boots. Across 80 acres of prime pasture, 3 generations of sweat, soil, and sacrifice have been torn to shreds overnight. Irrigation lines snapped like dry twigs. Centuries of rich topsoil churned into deep craters as if hit by artillery. This is not a story about wildlife damage. This is a quiet war for the land we bled for, the roots we planted, and the future we promised to leave our children. Every single night, hard-working American ranchers lose millions to a silent, relentless invasion that strikes in the dark and leaves nothing behind but dust and heartbreak. If you respect the value of hard work, family land, and the grit it takes to stand your ground, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community as we uncover the true battle to save our American legacy. To understand how a peaceful morning in Texas can turn into a battleground overnight, you have to look back at history, because nature has a brutally long memory. What we are witnessing across the American heartland today is not a freak accident. It is the slow, compounding interest on a series of human miscalculations spanning nearly 4 centuries. It all started back in 1539, when Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto stepped off his ship onto North American soil, bringing along a small herd of domestic swine for meat. For generations, those animals stayed behind fences, serving a simple purpose for early settlers. But fast forward to the early 1900s, when wealthy landowners and game ranches imported wild Eurasian boars from Europe for high-end trophy hunting. Those animals were aggressive, lean, and built for survival. When those two species inevitably crossed paths in the thickets of the Deep South, something terrifying happened. Their bloodlines merged to create the ultimate biological anomaly, what researchers and ranchers now call the super pig or feral swine. This creature inherited the massive breeding capacity of domestic hogs and the cold survivalist instinct of wild European boars. It was a genetic storm brewing quietly in the brush, waiting for its moment to take over. If you look closely at these animals, you quickly realize they are not just heavy wildlife. They are built like living, breathing industrial machinery. A fully grown hog carries a neck built like a hydraulic piston and a snout that functions as a meat and bone bulldozer. Beneath their thick skin lies a plate of hardened cartilage that acts like natural body armor. Their snouts feature a specialized disc of muscle and dense bone structure that allows them to drive deep into sun-baked clay or frozen turf with ease. A single adult can flip 20-pound stones and root out acres of deep taproots in a matter of hours, utterly destroying underground root systems that took decades to mature. What makes them truly dangerous, however, is their reproductive engine. A single sow reaches breeding age in less than a year. She can carry 2 litters every single season, dropping anywhere from 6 to 12 piglets every time. Within 6 months, those piglets are out in the fields, repeating the exact same cycle. Do the math on that math over 3 or 4 seasons, and you quickly realize you are not facing an invasion of individual animals. You are fighting a relentless biological compound effect that expands exponentially across every county line it touches. They walk with a quiet intelligence that catches even seasoned woodsmen off guard. They possess acute senses of smell, hearing, and memory that rivals trained hunting dogs or primates. They remember where the traps were set last year. They remember the sound of a truck engine shifting gears a mile down the county road. When one member of a sounder gets hurt or killed, the rest of the herd absorbs that lesson instantly and fades into the dense brush like ghosts. Before we move deeper into how these creatures adapt and outsmart traditional hunting methods, take a moment to tell us where you are watching this video from. Please tell us your country or city in the comments, and let us explore together. Understanding the biology of this animal changes how you see the land. When you look out over a damaged field in the pale light of morning, you are not just seeing broken soil. You are looking at 400 years of history colliding with an unbeatable survival machine, forcing American landowners to rethink everything they ever knew about protecting their family legacy. For decades, our gut reaction to this growing threat was simple and direct, the way most American folks were raised to handle trouble on their own property. When something invades your land, you grab your rifle, call a few neighbors, load up the hounds, or even rent a helicopter to chase them down across the open fields. It feels right. It feels manly, brave, and direct, like you are standing up for your family honor and taking immediate control of your own soil. But if decades of hard experience have taught us anything out here, it is that raw emotion and impulsive courage can sometimes backfire and make a bad situation much worse. When a hunter steps onto a ridge and takes down a massive trophy boar to hang its tusks over the fireplace, it feels like a victory. But in reality, you just made a massive strategic mistake. That heavy boar was holding the herd together. The moment he drops, the social structure of that sounder shatters. The remaining sows, carrying dozens of unborn piglets, do not run away for good. They scatter into smaller, secretive groups, dispersing across thousands of acres of neighboring properties and setting up new breeding colonies where nobody is watching. By taking out one impressive animal for a quick thrill, you just multiplied your long-term problem by 10. Then came the government bounty programs, which seemed logical on paper but proved disastrous in practice. Look at the painful lesson state wildlife agencies learned up in Tennessee years ago. When authorities started offering cash bounties for tail cuts or pig heads, they hoped the free market would solve the crisis. Instead, it created an unintended black market driven by greed rather than land stewardship. Reckless individuals realized they could trap live hogs in heavily infested counties, haul them across state lines in the middle of the night, and release them into fresh, clean territory to build new populations they could hunt and collect bounties on later. In their rush to turn a quick profit off a public crisis, human greed spread the infestation into pristine valleys and timberlands that had never seen a hog print before. This hard truth forces every landowner to face a tough reality. Emotional enthusiasm and quick fixes are the ultimate enemies of real conservation and farmland protection. You cannot fight an enemy this intelligent with impulse alone. You cannot shoot your way out of a mathematical crisis when the breeding rate outpaces your trigger finger. Victory on the ranch does not belong to the loudest rifle or the fastest truck. It belongs to the calm, patient thinker who steps back, studies the enemy, and understands that real wisdom and cold strategy will always triumph over temporary bravado. That hard realization was the turning point for landowners across the state. Once you accept that emotional reactions and scattered gunfire only make these animals smarter, everything changes. These swine are not dumb beasts running on blind reflex. Behavioral scientists rate their intelligence right up there with working sheepdogs, dolphins, and higher primates. They process cause and effect, they communicate danger across vast distances, and above all, they learn from the mistakes of their fallen kin. If you take a shot into a herd at midnight and miss just one young sow, you have effectively created a hardened veteran. That single surviving animal absorbs the trauma of that night, remembers the sharp scent of gun oil, the flash of light, and the sound of a diesel engine idling in the dark. From that moment on, she will never lead her offspring into an open field before twilight. She shifts her entire routine into the dead of night, slipping through dense timber like a phantom and teaching every piglet in her care to avoid human footprints at all costs. You might get a quick burst of satisfaction from pulling the trigger once, but you just spent the next 5 years fighting a phantom army that knows your habits better than you know theirs. To win a fight against an enemy that adaptable, American ranchers had to undergo a complete shift in mindset. We had to stop thinking like individual hunters looking for a quick kill and start operating like military generals orchestrating a full-scale campaign. A general does not waste ammunition on isolated skirmishes that alert the main enemy force. A general studies the battlefield, maps out supply lines, and waits until the entire opposing unit is locked into a single position before delivering a decisive blow. The objective is no longer to eliminate 2 or 3 hogs for a weekend story over coffee. The true objective is total removal of the entire sounder, leaving 0 survivors behind to carry the memory of that defeat back into the woods. This strategic revolution became possible thanks to modern cellular technology. In the past, checking trail cameras meant physically walking out into the field, pulling memory cards, and leaving human scent trails that alerted every wary hog within half a mile. Today, a rancher can sit at his kitchen table after midnight, sip a cup of hot coffee, and open an app on his smartphone. High-definition cellular trail cameras mounted high in the oak canopy transmit crystal-clear infrared photos and live video streams in real time. You can watch 30 hogs milling around in the dark, monitoring their exact feeding patterns, identifying the dominant matriarchs, and counting every newborn piglet without ever stepping foot on the damp grass or disturbing the night air. Technology handed the modern landowner the eyes of a commander sitting in a high-tech operations center miles away from the front line. For the first time in this long conflict, the element of surprise shifted back into our hands. We were no longer chasing shadows through the brush or guessing where the herd might strike next. We were patiently building a detailed tactical profile of our enemy, while they remained completely oblivious to the fact that their every move was being logged, analyzed, and prepared for a final, clean resolution. Have you ever had to outsmart an opponent that seemed to learn from your every move? Drop a comment below and share how you handled it, because out here on the land, adaptability is the only thing standing between victory and defeat. With the eyes of a general secured, the time came to deploy the ultimate tactical weapon. This is where the story shifts from raw surveillance to a masterclass in psychological warfare and absolute discipline. Enter the circular netting trap system, high-tech rigs like the Pig Brig, or remote drop systems like Jaeger Pro. These are not small metal cages you buy at a local supply store to catch a stray raccoon. They are massive, engineered enclosures designed with one goal in mind: catching an entire family unit simultaneously without raising a single alarm. Installing the circular trap is only 10% of the work. The remaining 90% relies entirely on the hardest human virtue to maintain when your livelihood is under siege: ironclad patience. This strategy is known across the ranching community as building a feast of trust. You erect the heavy metal fencing or suspended mesh ring right in the middle of their primary feeding route, but you leave the massive entryway wide open. You then spread hundreds of pounds of golden corn both outside and deep inside the circle. For the first week, night vision cameras capture an agonizing sight. The old matriarch sow approaches the perimeter. She stops cold in her tracks, tests the wind, and paces back and forth outside the wire for hours. She senses the metal, detects human scent lingering on the posts, and refuses to step inside. The rest of the sounder stays behind her, watching her every move. A lesser landowner would panic, rush out with a rifle, or drop a gate early just to catch 2 or 3 young hogs. But a true strategist knows that pulling the trigger early destroys 3 weeks of preparation. You swallow your pride, sit back, and let them walk away unharmed. By the second week, hunger and repetition begin to wear down their natural defenses. The younger pigs venture inside first, gobbling up the free bait while the old sow watches from the woodline. Day after day, you continue feeding them. You spend your hard-earned money buying sack after sack of grain, literally feeding the very animals that ripped up your pasture last night. You watch them on your live camera feed, feasting like royalty on your dime, while you sit in your living room holding your breath. You are intentionally manufacturing a false sense of security, rewriting their instinctual fear until they view that metal enclosure as the safest restaurant in the county. Then comes night 21, the moment of truth. The air is still, and the moon hangs low over the timber. On your smartphone screen, the live stream glows bright. The old matriarch walks straight through the opening without hesitation. Behind her come the sub-adults, the nursing sows, the shoats, and every single piglet in the lineage. 28 animals, the entire sounder, are packed shoulder to shoulder inside the ring, buried nose deep in corn, completely oblivious to the world around them. Inside a warm kitchen miles away, a weathered finger hovers over a red button on a glowing screen labeled "Drop Trap." There is no adrenaline-fueled chase, no dogs barking, no gunshots echoing through the valley to spook neighboring herds. Just a soft tap on glass. Tens of miles away, a high-torque solenoid releases a heavy steel latch. Within a fraction of a second, the massive circular gate drops flush against the earth, sealing every exit instantaneously. When the dust settles inside the ring, the quiet victory is complete. In a single, silent moment, an entire generational branch of destructive invaders is removed from your land forever. No survivors escaped into the brush to remember the event. No traumatized animals scattered to infest your neighbor's property, and no lesson was passed down to the next generation. It is a clean, total resolution built not on brute force, but on the quiet power of waiting for the exact right second to strike. At the end of the day, no fence line can stop a threat this large, and no rancher can win this fight alone. Real victory is never about how much force you exert in a single moment. It is about community, patience, and having the wisdom to outsmart life's hardest challenges together. When we stand united with our neighbors, sharing knowledge and protecting our land, we secure a future for the next generation. Would you have the patience to feed your rival for 3 full weeks just to secure lasting peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button to join our family, and I will see you in the next video.